Alright, so it's been almost 2 years since my channel has featured a new turbo racing model. This is the C75, and the last video I did was the monster truck. I think this is a C82. I did that video in December of 2021, and then the previous video before that was the C73 series. That's these guys here, the two of them. That was back in November of 2021. So some things have changed, some things are the same. Going to kind of cover what's new here. Obviously, a little bit bigger, a little bit faster. Obviously, you know, that's what there's almost 2 years of time has passed, and they've made some improvements. I think the biggest improvement is the speed and the motor that's in here. I'll give you a listen to what that sounds like as well. But the remote seems to be almost identical to the previous generation. It's just the differences in the car, and it's a pretty big difference. You got this new shell here. They're calling this the TC04 chassis, and it comes in red like this, or black. You know, I'll show you this how the size compares to the previous generation, but you pretty much get the same stuff as you do in the older versions. You get documentation, of course. You get some blank shells here. You can paint those, and then you get the USB-C cable, and then this little tool here. I think that is for taking the chassis off. The remotes seem to be the same. They brought all the same buttons and functions, and I will put links to the old videos if you want to compare, but pretty much all the same functions are there. And I'll just go over them really quickly here. So you have your throttle limits, 20, 50, 100%. Got your steering direction. You got your throttle dual rates, so you can slow down even within the 20, 50, and 100% limits. You can give it a little bit more granularity, 0 to 10. Got your throttle trim, which is going to help with giving it more control, especially on the lower end of the trigger. And you got your steering dual rates, so basically how much turning ability it has based on how fast it's going. And then you have your steering trim, so that basically helps it go straight when the steering wheel is in the middle. And then you got your on-off switch here. Got your channel 3 and 4, and I'll show you what those do. And just like the previous generation remote, it has the USB-C charging here. And you just put this in the middle position like this, and that'll enable the charging off of the batteries that are inside here, and then in here. And of course the handle removes like so. So what I like to do is just keep the batteries in one handle and then move them from remote to remote, which you can do because they're all basically the same, except for the first generation, which I'll show you in a second here. And then the batteries, you just twist this off here, and then they just slide out. And then you need 4 AAA batteries to power the remote. So just quickly, here's the first generation. The cars kind of look like this, and the remotes did not have as much function. Like, it doesn't have the 20, 50, 100% throttle limits. It has a lot of the other functions there, but a lot of things like the lights and stuff aren't on the first gen. But this was from, like, I don't know, even more than 2 years ago, probably 3 years ago. And so yeah, I'm gonna actually give away my one of these that I'm not using these anymore. So this is one of the first generation microcars. Just put it back in the box here. It's been sitting here for a while. Anyway, I'm gonna give this away on my second channel, and I'm launching a huge giveaway in September. This is gonna be one of the prizes. So make sure that you're subscribed, have your notifications turned on both channels, and especially that one, because that's where you'll be able to enter for this one. If you're interested in picking up one of these for free, I'm going to give this one away. Anyway, go ahead and turn it on here. So you can charge up via USB-C here, and then power it on. You get your lights, power on the remote, and we have our connection now. And just to show you, it's got nice proportional steering here. It's one of the advantages of these microcars. Really nice in the way they sound or way they feel in the steering. Let me turn the microphone around and you can hear what the motor sounds like. Alright, this is at 20% throttle. %. And just for comparison, this is the previous generation. This is 20%, 50%, 100%. So I'm not 100% sure what changed, but I think the gearing is a little bit cleaner sounding. Obviously the motor is a lot more powerful, so it's a lot faster than the previous generation. I'm just going to show you a couple little things here. I try to do some side-by-sides of this with the other one, and it is a lot faster. The problem is with these little skinny rubber tires on a smooth surface at full power, the wheels spin out. Actually, even on the previous generation that occurs quite a bit too. But it's just with so much power on this new generation, you have to build up the speed, so pull the throttle a little bit and then go full speed. Otherwise, the tires just spin out. But yeah, this is definitely a lot faster than the previous generation. And so just again quickly here, the lights. You can see here, this is channel 4. So this turns on the blinkers or the SOS, like that. And the middle position is just the headlights on, and then channel 4 off is headlights off. And here's the parking light. And then if you reverse, get the brakes. Brake lights turn on. And I think you have turning signals as well. Yep. Left, right. And then these undercarriage lights here, you can turn them on and off with this button. Here's channel 3. Yeah, so if it's on the table like this, you can kind of see the lights on and off like that. Pretty cool. Another new feature of this new model is that the battery is on a plug, and you can replace it now. So I believe the previous models that were soldered onto the circuit board, not a big deal if you're not a solder, but for a lot of people that's a big deal. So being able to replace these batteries after you've had your fun with them for a while is a big deal, because they're pretty small. They do wear out after a while, and you can replace those batteries pretty easily. You just have to take the screws off here and then remove the chassis, and then you can pop the battery off and replace it with a new one. Now, of course, using this on my little homemade track here I have been using in my previous videos, these previous generation ones were already too fast for that little track. So you're going to need a much bigger track if you want to be able to race these around at full speed. Yeah, even at 20%, I would say like 20% throttle on these previous generation on that little track there, pretty controllable, and you could do some pretty good racing. And then anything faster than that is kind of wasted speed. You just can't control it. You just end up crashing. And obviously on 20% throttle on the new generation, it's faster than 20% throttle on the previous generation. So even at 20% throttle on this new C75, it is pretty tough to control on the small track here. However, you do have a little. It does seem like they changed or added a little bit more expo on the throttle on this new version, just because they really realize that they are giving you tons of power. So you are able to go, so if, for example, I'm at 100% throttle here, or the throttle limit's 100% right here, and then if I just pull the trigger a little bit, it just goes slower. So you can go slower by just pulling the trigger a little bit, and then building up your speed and going all the way to full power. And it does have a little bit more resolution here at the lower end of the throttle, so you do have a little bit more control at the higher throttle limits. So then when you do have like those straightaways, so if you're on a bigger track with a lot, if you're racing with like a wider, bigger track, from some of those straightaways you can get those big bursts of speed by going full throttle, and of course slowing down in the turns. Obviously if you're just going full throttle the whole time, you're just going to crash. There's no way to control the speed. This was just really, really fast. But yeah, basically now that we have more power and a little bit more controllability with the throttle, this would be ideal for a much larger track. Probably something maybe 3 times, 4 times as wide as the track that you're seeing here, the one that I have on my table here, and maybe a track that's with a lot more straightaways, a lot longer. I would say something that covers perhaps as much as 10 times the area. Now granted, something that a track that large might be a bit tough to see these little cars, So maybe you probably want to keep a limit it to a little bit something smaller, but I think that with a lot of practice, you can get pretty good control with these cars now, with a lot of ability to control your throttle limits, you know, in terms of your steering rates, etc. There's a lot of, you can definitely get some fine-tuning control on the newer models to control that power, but I think it will take a fair amount of practice to realize that potential. Anyways, what do you guys think of the new model? Have you had fun with the previous models, and what has your experience been with the previous models and the previous generations? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a thumbs up. We'd appreciate that. And if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, consider subscribing. That'd really help out the channel. That'll do it for this video. Talk to you guys in the next one.